Hola, you are listening to Half Drunk and Curious with myself, Exurb1a and Pieke, aka Pieke. Say hello, Pieke.
Hello.
This is the first episode. Basically, we're going to get a bit hammered and have a chat to people we think are interesting, because we're not particularly interesting.
Yeah, mostly we're interested in science, technology, arts, the future, and anything that tickles our pickle, really. So we recorded this episode a little while ago. Quite a bit has happened, especially in politics in the meantime, so keep that in mind while you're listening.
This episode, we've been having a chat to Cody of the Alternate History Hub YouTube channel. We liked what he was doing. We are pretty sure you will too. Go check him out. Bye! First of all, we were watching some of your videos today just to kind of refresh ourselves a bit. And we're kind of curious how really you got into all this to begin with, because it's something I'd never heard of before, the whole alternate history genre. So yeah, we're just a bit curious how you even got started with all this.
Well, I've always been fascinated with history, like mostly military history for one thing.
Yeah.
As any teenage boy mostly was. And that kind of expanded into just the understanding nations and how societies interact and how battles and stuff change history. It got me fascinated about, well, what if different battles had gone differently? Like, how would that have affected society and the progress of history?
Yeah.
So I started looking up videos, what if this had gone differently? What if this had gone differently? And this was 4 or 5 years ago. And I came across this genre called alternate history. And it just blew my mind because it was pretty much what I was always sort of theorizing in my head, but I didn't know there was this entire community of people that actually did that. So I never actually got introduced with alternate history through the novels or through the fiction, because alternate history is a very big, fictional genre. Mm. I got introduced through just this Portuguese YouTube channel that used PowerPoint slides, and every single alternate history scenario ended with global communism taking over for some reason. And it was extremely biased. I mean, I loved the guy. He was a super nice guy, but just everything had to end with socialism. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would kind of wish somebody would make a channel that could be realistic in some aspects. Right. So I thought, why can't I just do that?
Oh, awesome.
So before you started your channel, did you do some more research regarding what other people were doing online, or just that one guy? And then you thought, maybe I can do something slightly different.
Well, when I started my channel, I was in senior year of high school, and the only thing I really did mostly creative was draw a lot. So I wasn't really that well versed with YouTube videos or creativity or that much. Mm. So when I first started, it sort of emulated this style that was going on with YouTube, which was basically just PowerPoint presentations. They're just synced up with epic orchestra soundtracks from 2 Steps from Hell. Looking back on it now, people just like, this is Cody from Alternate History Hub. Like,
well, it's a bit of an embarrassing admission, but we did to begin with. We were like, I wonder what because it's interesting to go back a few years, because it's like a time machine. You can go back through, especially if someone's been on a while. Like I think your earliest stuff was in 2012. And we were thinking, if we want to find out what he's all about, we should check out his early stuff as well. And it was still good, but you see someone has come on like a real creative journey. Like a lot has changed, and you do a lot of stuff artistically very differently and whatnot. So it's that's always quite interesting to see as well.
Your first video that you can see on your YouTube channel now, is that actually your first, or did you do some test videos before, and or the first videos you deleted them after and then made your first real introduction video?
Yeah, that was my first actual video.
Okay.
I recorded that in just one tank.
Yeah, right.
Explaining there was a bunch of ums, and it was pretty just, and my voice was squeaking. I think my voice dropped within the last 2 years or something, because I sound like an entirely person.
We were again. We would never have brought it up with. Everyone has these little these interesting changes creatively when you're on there for long enough. But yeah, we were definitely like, whoa! Like now you sound like a genuine radio presenter. Like literally, you could get away with being on the radio. But when we watched a few of those, over breakfast or something, and then we went back and we were like, wow. yeah, this really changed in a few years. Like, this was crazy. Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I sound like a 12-year-old, but
not at all.
No.
what happened was just through, the gradual evolution, I realized, I kind of need to differentiate myself from everyone else. If I need to, but the only reason I was even different was I named my channel Alternate History Hub, which was pretty obnoxious back then. Had like 50 subscribers, but eventually it worked out. I mean, kind of.
Yep, I think you can get away with it because it's so niche. If it was like Makeup Hub or something, then a few people have got that corner of the market already sort of pretty locked down. But I think with alternate history, like I said, your channel was the first time I'd ever really come across this as an actual genre. I'd just seen it in a few films and a few books. I didn't realize this was a big thing. Which, not to interrupt, that was going to be my next question. Like, can you tell us a bit more about like how massive this is? We didn't even realize it was a genre before. This was a thing a lot of people were doing.
Well, like it's not an incredibly huge genre compared to like science fiction and
sure.
stuff like that. But it's it's kind of a level of just it's a very close community, I would say. A lot of the people that contribute to it aren't normally just pure alternate history writers. Like the very first ones were like Harry Turtledove,
right,
Dick, and they've done amazing work that wasn't alternate history, obviously. So
sure,
it just from those initial contributions, it sort of inspired other people to think of scenarios and worlds that involved around history.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, since it's a literary genre, at first the point of it wasn't to theorize purely about the nations and stuff. It was to set up the story and the characters.
Yeah,
and the conflict was affected from alternate history, but it wasn't like the main focus. The characters were the main focus, and so over the years that kind of eventually changed to being a lot of people are fascinated about just not really the human aspect, but the grand scheme of it.
Right on.
And I kind of like doing that. I like focusing on the whole lore aspect, for lack of a better word, lore aspect, and the history of this entirely alternate timeline.
Yeah, right on. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, one thing I was thinking when I was watching this stuff was, first of all, that there aren't any recurring characters or something. It's purely like theoretical, and that's the appeal of what you're doing in a way. But also, you'll know way more about this than I do. But the sort of great man theory versus trends, and I only sorry, say again.
I was agreeing. I was listening. I said, "Oh yeah."
Fair. Yeah. It's sometimes being a few thousand miles away can be a bit tricky with communication. But it's just something I only found out about a few months ago. Do you know the Dan Carlin Hardcore History podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a massive fan of this guy, and I'd never even thought of this before. But I noticed that you, I can tell you, it seems like you're trying to be as objective as possible because you don't. Obviously, who would want to piss everyone off? They're going to be history buffs everywhere, and if you come down on one side or the other, like with your, you did a video on what if Atlantis actually survived or existed, essentially, and like there must be so many nuts on both sides who you're going to annoy.
I pissed off a lot of Atlanteans with that one.
A lot of Atlanteans, yeah, right. Yeah, have you done anything super controversial that people got annoyed about? Like I first discovered you from the I think there's a plane going overhead, but I first discovered you from the what if World War II, what if the Axis won, basically, and I was amazed there wasn't more controversy about that. To be honest, like, have you done stuff that really pissed people off, drove them crazy?
I did a video about if the South won the American Civil War.
Oh yeah, right. I didn't actually see that, but I remember reading the title thinking, shit, that's gonna be a trigger. Like
that was atrocious. Just so many people calling me like a liberal cuck and all of this.
Liberal cuck. Jesus Christ.
That's like the worst. Like a northern. I just a bunch of words that I'm not sure I can actually say.
What's the worst thing someone online has said to you?
Liberal cock is pretty good.
So many great ones to think about. I think somebody called me. A lot of people called me like a. No, I can't realize that. That's not really an insult. It's not. It's really like saying it, the name itself, like people just for some reason call me a Jew, which
right. Yeah, because fuck it, why not? Yeah, for sure. Great. Yeah.
No, it kind of offends me.
Yeah.
The fact that is like an insult.
That's supposed to be offensive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I got that a lot for the Nazi video. But,
what? Like you're a Jew apologist or something? Is that why? Like you're
like they're saying like, oh, like you don't know the true history, or you're just buying into white genocide and all this fun stuff.
It's fun. You just you remind me for a second that this is like some maybe a little controversial for the first ever podcast. Let's just run it into the ground while we can. Yeah, take that podcast. But I was going to say, so there's this thing in like just for reference, everyone else. Yeah, I live in Bulgaria. That's where we are at the moment. And there's this slightly weird undertone every now and then, even among really liberal people, of this like Jewish conspiracy thing, and it will only come out after meeting someone, deciding they're really cool, deciding that they have no like underlying character flaws, and then suddenly it will just like come out that they think there's some. But by that point, you've already been talking to them for 3 hours, so you've decided you like them. And by then it's kind of too late, and it's very confusing. So, yeah, I see this over the net sometimes. I don't know what to make of this. This is quite weird. But obviously, I guess Jew is an insult in their minds when they call it to you, I suppose. But yeah, that's pretty weird.
I have that a lot in America.
Oh, really?
At least where I am.
Where are you from, Cody?
Why?
What area? Pieke was saying, yeah, whereabouts if you want to be explicit. I mean, you don't have to.
Oh, I'm from Ohio.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not like too far away from the city, but I'm at least out by the country.
Yeah.
And if like people are super nice and everything, but sometimes you can be talking to somebody for a few hours or so, and then they just let it slip that it's the blacks doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mexicans are trying to take over the country or whatever. It slips. It's interesting how normal people can sometimes have these views. But
yeah, I was years ago. I was on a plane to New Zealand, and I have a bit of a thing with flying. Like I don't like it that much. And there was a very old woman next to me who was just talking to me, and it's a nice distraction. And you must have been talking for like 12 hours. It's a long flight. She seemed the sweetest, most lovely woman in the world. And when we were just about to land, I said, "So, where would you recommend going? You know where I'm going, the cities and stuff." She was like, maybe Nelson, but there's a lot of blacks there, I'd avoid it. And it was just like the ultimate sort of anti-cherry on top of that, like, that. It was just terrible. She seems so lovely. It's that occasional little, like, fun, playful racism at the end, just to mix things up. Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
My girlfriend's grandma, she's Puerto Rican. Like, she can barely really speak English that much.
Oh, yeah?
But they live in kind of the inner city a little bit, and the house across the street was getting sold, and a new family moved in, and it does happen to be a black family. Just a nice typical family. And her grandma, she's like the sweetest like old lady in the world. She can barely remember where she is half the time, but she, just innocently as possible, just pointed at them and said, "Look, the blacks." And
wow.
And we all just kind of were like, okay, let's shuffle her inside. He sees, and that was
before this escalates. Yeah, right.
Topic for a first time podcast. This is I'm glad.
Yeah, right, for sure. Well, like I said, I mean, we call this half drunk and curious. We're quite explicit about just trying to be honest, really. But yeah, for sure. But that's some intense shit. Old people racism. It's kind of excusable. It's like a fun little throwback to a simpler time, but that's why I can't wait to get old. And you have to wonder with the values we have now. I wonder what kind of stuff we believe right now that's going to be ridiculously conservative
in the future.
in like 50 years that we're going to come out with completely unthinkingly, and our grandkids are going to be like, Jesus Christ, like can you not?
Maybe Cody has an idea for our future. What's going to happen? That?
Yeah, right. What with culture, you mean? But I wonder. We must be, for example, like most of the internet is quite, regardless of opinions or whatever. We're pretty like anti, not like progressive, but like anti sort of the social justice warrior stuff and whatnot. Like I wonder if that's going to be the
correctness and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder if that's going to be like if it goes one way or the other, depending. If that's going to be the taboo that we come out with when we're grandparents or whatever. Or it's just it's hard to.
Like depending on the progress of robotics and with that, maybe eventually people are like, artificial intelligence isn't real life. Or,
right on, for sure.
But that's science.
You shouldn't be sleeping with machines. Yeah, well, this is what I want to.
Don't hate robots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Well, some people are already sleeping with machines,
But like in
vibrators
VR,
and
or you
stuff.
mean? Oh yeah, well, I guess vibrator is a little different to it.
I've known some men who were pretty offended when girlfriends or anything had a vibrator.
What, they feel like inadequate about it.
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine how bad it's going to be when it's like a really convincing, like 6-pack robot Hulk? Like that's going to really.
Yeah, well, or a female. There are already women online, and men also, but more women who are completely anti-female robots. How do you call them?
Fembots, yeah.
Fembots,
Sex bots. But
Exactly.
yeah, this is what I was going to ask you with what you're doing. My like little sort of pet thing to rant on about is like transhumanism and the singularity and all this stuff. The future kind of taking off, hopefully in our lifetimes a bit. So, I was going to, like, alternate history is like perfect for this because I don't know if you played Beyond Earth, this civilization game.
I've played every civilization except Beyond Earth. It didn't appeal to me for some reason.
Yeah, I was a big fan as well, and I was so excited for the idea of Beyond Earth, but it didn't tickle me for some reason. But it did have this idea where you could kind of go down different tech routes, like the same with normal Civ. But you could go down different types of tech. So I've been waiting for like weeks to ask you about how you thought, like, if we go the kind of genetic route, if genetic technology, genetic engineering really takes off, and instead that's how we really start defining culture, like modifying embryos or improving ourselves that way, or you go down the more sort of techie route like nanotechnology or AI or something like this. Is this stuff you've been thinking about much, like sort of nerd's wet dream?
Yeah, I actually have. I'm certainly no expert, so
No, that's so good, not at all.
But I've always kind of assumed that it's going to be sort of a mix of that.
Yeah.
The introduction of like cybernetics and artificial implants and stuff that we already are kind of seeing today.
Definitely.
That's going to take off in the future. Like that's definitely going to. And that's great. That's not a bad thing. It's just people are going to eventually implement more technology into their bodies because, that's how it'll become more of a medical thing than sort of an improvement thing. Mm-hmm. Genetics, though, I'm not very sure about that. Seems a bit, you have a fine line between eugenics and manipulating genetics, sort of like Gattaca, stuff like that.
That's still, I saw that a few weeks ago. That film still holds up like brilliantly today. In fact, like with everything we're worrying about genetics, particularly, like for sure.
So that itself, I think, would be a controversy of manipulating DNA and manipulating embryos and stuff. And even already, I know a lot of deeply religious people, and the idea of changing DNA, of adding cybernetics to the body, that is an extremely big issue to them for some now even. And so I think when we're talking about stuff like in the future that will be a controversy, I think that will be an immense big issue like gay marriage or abortion. It'll be cybernetics or introduction.
Yeah, definitely. But I was just thinking when you were saying it, like we always imagine it was going to be some massive catastrophe, like if games like Deus Ex and a lot of sci-fi, they always make out that these things are going to be kind of life-shattering controversies, but I can't imagine it's going to be too much bigger than, for example, like when the contraceptive pill came around in the 60s. The Catholic Church they're like mega rich, mega powerful. They've had to deal with this stuff before, so I imagine it would just be the same kind of. But the one, sorry, actually, go on. Sorry, you weren't talking about that.
Oh, sorry, I'm not actually talking about like end of the world sort of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
An equivalent to the gay marriage abortion debate that's happening in America right now, basically.
Yeah, it's fun to think that you'll get protesters about this instead. Keep bodies purely biological, keep minds purely neurochemical, this kind of stuff. But I was also going to say it's going to be an interesting. If AI does go down this is what I spend a lot of my time thinking about and trying to resist making videos about. If AI does go down the route of becoming more and more conscious, with the lines being blurred, that's going to raise some serious issues with the afterlife, with how churches, especially religiously, how they respond to this, whether they're heretics or whatever, especially when they seem human as well,
Yeah, or just the idea of what is life, or what does it mean to be a human or have a soul, and If you have a machine that thinks it's, alive, and in most aspects it is, except for biological, like, that is a huge amount of, like, moral issue. Like, that'll raise a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah.
In the far future, at least.
Well, same as I always think if this kind of, again, nerd's wet dream, the rapture of the nerds, if brain scanning really takes off, and you're able somehow, if it's possible, to digitize human consciousness and to run it on a machine platform, at least so it seems convincing, like a convincing copy of the person. That really does leave, like, big questions about, well, where is the soul then? Like, where if you can faithfully copy someone's identity onto a machine, then where the hell is the bit that's been hanging around for 3,000 years that we've believed in religiously, the whole time? Like, it's that I'd really like to see what, not, regardless of being an atheist or not, or agnostic or whatever, it'll be interesting to see how religions, like, respond to that. That would be quite bizarre.
Oh yeah, just the whole. It's going to be fascinating with social issues that are just going to affect our generation.
Sorry, go on.
Talking about religion, what do you actually believe, Cody?
Well, again,
soul-wise and stuff.
Well, if it wants to be explicit, I mean, that's
you don't have to, but.
Well, I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm a Christian. I believe in the soul and stuff like that. But I'm pretty laid back, so I don't really judge other people by their beliefs, pretty much. But yeah, so I like to think of the idea that there's a soul and stuff. I mean, for me, that's pretty comforting.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know if there's an afterlife. I don't know, but I choose to believe that there is, and
Yeah, right on. No, that's not, like, we're not taking that as the elephant in the room or anything at all. Yeah, just purely, like, curious, but I don't know. It's like I imagine if you were religious, if one is religious, I'm not, so I'm pretty agnostic as far as it goes. But I imagine it would be something that you more and more, like, it becomes something that you probably don't want to admit to like, you're more and more reluctant to admit publicly as, like, time goes on or whatever. Like, people sort of getting more volatile. Like, I was personally one of these, like, dickhead. Like, angry atheist when I was a teenager or whatever, and it sort of hit, like, my 20s. I was like, maybe I need to stop being a douche. Like, maybe I don't actually know. Like, maybe this seems a bit unpleasant. But
it's actually like that too. Not joking. I used to be a pretty hardcore atheist, and then I became an agnostic. And
wow!
I came back.
So you were raised as a Christian, and then went to the route the believing in other stuff, and then you came back from it.
Kind of, sort of. My family never really had that much of a connection to, like, religion and stuff, at least, like, my mom and dad. But my parents did, like, my grandparents did. They were extreme Baptists. Whoa. And, yeah, just, like, basically evangelicals, like the most stereotypical evangelicals you can think of. And so all their views were pretty messed up. Their way of dealing with other people with those issues were very messed up, not very Christian-like at all. And so that kind of scared me away from Christian, because for, like, most of my life, that's what I imagined it being. But as I eventually became an atheist, and then as I stopped talking to my grandparents and kind of traveled a little bit, went to college, and ironically, I actually went back to religion when going to college for some reason. Yeah,
that's a really like cool and sort of unexpected turn. I think most people usually go the other way,
Yeah, I mean, college is certainly a liberal, and it's a liberal environment. Not that that's bad or anything. Yeah, it's not typically the story you hear when
right. Even scared you.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's
going back to your first question about how people how I deal with it and stuff.
Yeah.
In America, it's not taboo at all.
Yeah, right. We've probably got a bit of a European, like, being British and Dutch. Like, this is, like, a bit more of a taboo over here, I expect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really a taboo at all. It's in fact more taboo to be agnostic. Well, actually, it's a generational thing. It's weird. If you talk to more of the baby boomers and stuff, and say that you're an atheist or agnostic, they will get extremely offended.
Whoa.
Yeah, oh yeah, they get extremely offended and say the worst things, and baby boomers are an interesting bunch. But
yes, to be honest, they're kind of dicks. They're kind of dicks back home for us as well, but just in a different way. But yeah.
So when you get closer to, like, young people really don't care. So you can when you say that you're a Christian, and you talk to a young atheist, really, it's not really like a big deal anymore. It's kind of, I live my life, you live yours sort of way. So as long as you don't try to like yell at, like try to debate people, like most people really don't debate in real life in America. It's mostly through the internet, and that's where the shit gets really bad. But if you talk to people about religion in, at least where I am in real life, people will be mostly pleasant about it and not really try to be too controversial.
Is that partly like an Ohio thing, or is that like also a kind of US thing? Because like neither of us have much experience with the US, and I don't know about you, Pieke, but I was thinking about like how like that sounds almost completely opposite to the experience in Europe or the UK at least. So is that partly like geographical where you are, or do you think that's like a US wide thing?
I mean the US is huge, so
yeah, for sure. Yeah, right.
That's at least where I am in sort of in the Midwest, in kind of a pretty suburban area of the US. Religion is not really talked about that much in terms of trying to convert people or debate people and stuff, and it's a lot more open. So it's kind of weird. It's like you basically you can vocalize it, and as long as you're not saying that other people are going to go to hell, a lot of people just kind of have a live and let live lifestyle.
Yeah, right.
Kind of like that. So yeah, if that's kind of how it is. So Christianity, it's not taboo. Having a religion isn't taboo. And not having a religion, at least with young people, isn't taboo.
Well, that's awesome. That's kind of like a nice in between, I suppose. Like that's better than this. But I don't know. I just assumed because of the at least while I've been on the net, I'm only in my late 20s, but for as long as I've been on the net, I've noticed there's been like a really big reduction in how honest people are about being religious, where they don't want to admit it or whatever, where like this whole new atheist thing has really got big and whatnot. And I always assumed that was kind of like just sweeping across the US, especially like a lot of younger Americans and whatnot seem like way more atheistic than they ever have been, and it's certainly the same in the UK, like our generation and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that's still like alive and well, I guess. Yeah,
well, a lot of my generation is definitely turning away from religion and stuff. Right. But I don't think it's in the sort of the same amount as Europe.
Yeah, I don't really know what's behind that, to be honest. I don't know why. Like when I first noticed it, it was sort of people like Richard Dawkins and this kind of like big. That's where I kind of jumped on the bus. I want to say the bandwagon, but the bus sounds a bit cooler. But I don't know if it's just some people got really vocal about it, or like it was a sort of nationwide or like continent-wide thing. In entire like a lot in a lot of rural areas, if people are religious, they are extremely religious. So it kind of lifts the whole nation up as a whole as sort of a lot more conservative than Europe. It's kind of always been that way a little bit. America's always kind of joked about how Europe were sort of not to offend you guys, right? What is this? How dare you?
A bunch of pansies or something like that. Sure. So it's
we kind of are in a lot of respects, but
America likes to differentiate itself from everyone else, and in some aspects that tends to be more conservative and be more religious because everyone else is basically wrong except for us, America.
To be honest, I think when you got a few like moon landings under your belt, I think you've kind of got the right to be a bit full of yourself. I think at that point you can kind of Johnny Big Balls. I think it's acceptable to start boasting a bit.
How do you think religion is going to?
Hey, I was going to ask the same
develop
thing. Yeah,
in
exactly.
The US.
Yeah, like with the alternate history angle with this, like generally like with and the world as well. Like generally, if religion sort of slowly seems to be waning at the moment,
I think that in most areas of the U.S., it's pretty much going to disappear. Honestly, it's a trend. Because you even pointed it out, how more young people are basically just getting rid of religion and not really having it affect their lives. Yeah. So I think it's the old generation basically dies out. It's going to disappear. But in areas of the U.S. like the deep Midwest, the deep South, Texas, where religion is still very prominent, it's going to hold on, and it's going to hold on hard. So basically, it's pretty much going to have I think, just sort of enclaves of, deep, fervent religious belief surrounded by a sea of agnosticism.
Nice. So it's just going to get even more like kind of contentious, I guess, to be like the line will be even more clearly defined. I guess that's going to be interesting. Huh?
Yeah, because there's always already pretty a big mentality of an us versus them.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean, like religiously, generally? No.
Yeah, I even sort of have that mentality a little bit, a bit more of it. Kind of, a lot of people, at least where I am, sort of see the world against them, and that's always been kind of an American thing, not even a religious thing.
Yeah.
But that I think as more people, as there are more of them, of more people, that idea will kind of become more rooted, and people will be more rooted in their sort of religious and conservative beliefs, kind of.
Whoa! So it just gets kind of even more conservative as a result of dwindling a bit. That's
the reason why Trump is rising so much.
Yeah, right.
But there's this reactionary culture of against PC or against liberals or against for people's minds, socialism.
Well, everything ends in socialism, so just get over it, Cody. I mean, come on.
So when it comes to Hillary and Clinton and Donald Trump, what do you think? Where is the world going to go? If Trump is going to win,
either or, yeah. What kind of happens sort of where do you see it going with either of them winning? I guess, yeah.
Well, I will just say for the record, I hate both of them.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think most people agree with you there. Like we're not even in the country and we agree. Like
the only thing I really liked about the Clintons recently was the balloon meme about them, where they were so happy about the balloons. I don't know if you've seen that, Cody.
That was pretty adorable.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I wonder when I saw that if that was a marketing stunt they maybe came up with.
It's even a bit contrived. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, sorry, go on.
I think once the debates come, those are going to be fun.
Whenabouts do we get to look forward to those? Whenabouts those happening?
Oh, I have no idea. But when they do,
yeah, exactly. It shouldn't be too far off. I don't think.
It's only like time flew. Election's almost here, but
yeah, right.
I don't like the Clinton. I don't like Clintons. I don't like Trump. But when it has Trump's ideas versus Hillary's kind of like a blank slate. Like she just kind of agrees with everyone, and isn't that too controversial? Mixed with Trump, who is controversial every 5 seconds.
Yeah, but still kind of changes his mind about what. Like neither of them seem consistent. It's just one is completely inconsistent with having no voice. The other is completely inconsistent with saying wild and like salacious bullshit. Like it seems like that's the only difference between them. Like
yeah, and it's funny. Trump actually, I don't know how much you pay attention to U.S. politics.
In Europe, we're all getting a little bit worried about this, so we are watching quite closely. In fact, yeah, indeed, we're like, oh shit, okay.
So Trump actually has he's not even consistent with who he endorses and who he doesn't. He actually he refused to endorse 2 candidates like a week ago, and then immediately went back and endorsed them again because everyone was in a tizzy about it. And he asked 3 times in an interview, why can't I nuke these people?
Whoa, wow. Do you know who he was specifically talking about? Like,
I think he was talking about the Middle East.
Nice. Why can't I nuke these people? And it's also why can't I? It's not why can't we? Why can't I personally nuke these people? I want to press the button.
It's funny his mentality with that. I truly think that in his mind, what it means to be president is to sit in a nice chair and look presidential.
Yeah.
Sure. So there's this politician called John Kasich. He's our governor. He's my governor.
Okay.
And he's kind of like the last guy that really like stood up to Trump, kind of. He was the last to drop out of the race. And Trump, I think, respected that, and he wanted a moderate as a VP. So Trump's campaign actually went to Kasich's office and suggested that Kasich run with Trump as a VP. And Kasich said, okay, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And the Trump campaign said, you're going to be in charge of foreign and domestic issues. Kasich said, well, what's Trump going to be in charge of? And I'm not even fucking joking. Trump's son said, making America great again.
Yeah. The I thought that was strange in that you were just offered the foreign issues to someone that sort of hastily, but no, that's that. Jesus Christ!
I truly think he actually has no idea how to be president. I don't think he actually has a plan to be president. I think he just wants the title, and that's it. I don't think he actually planned to be this far, and so he doesn't actually want to really lead. He just wants to have a bunch of other people lead, and he'll take the credit. That's why he hasn't really said any issues. He hasn't really said anything he's going to do, because he really has no idea. He's just kind of saying a bunch of speeches and getting a lot of praise, and he'll ride out 4 years and maybe everything will work out for him.
So what if he would win? How do you think? What would America look like in 4 years?
You and I we were talking about this the other day when we first had a bit of a chat about we were talking about like for example the immigration thing, where it's like if he actually gets in, like
I want to hear a nice doom scenario.
Yeah, you want to hear
what's the worst
weapons,
thing? What's the worst thing you think will happen?
I don't think he'll be able to do anything. I actually don't. He's so alienated from the Republican Party. He's so alienated from everyone else. I think that he will be a lame duck president because nobody will approve any legislation he does. He can't even, the wall plan he has will cost trillions of dollars, and every plan he has is so unrealistic. The only reason he's saying it is to appeal to the xenophobic white masses who really don't pay attention to Washington politics. Yeah. So he's not going to do any of the stuff he's saying. Even if he really wants to, there's no way, just because of how the U.S. checks and balances are with the Supreme Court and with the legislative branch, they're not going to let him do anything.
Well, I was going to specifically ask about this because each country, I'm sure it's the same in the Netherlands, that each country has its own system for politically. One party tries to put something through, and obviously the others can block it. Also in the UK, we're still in the dark ages. We have a queen, and if she really wants, she could potentially block bills. With the House, they can just block stuff. So, for example, if he just decided that he wanted to push through some kind of bizarre war, or for example, the immigration thing. Okay, we're going to round them up in the night. All the Mexicans need to get out, or whatever it is. How much power do the House or whoever it is essentially have to block stuff like that? What do they need to do?
Basically, they just don't sign off on whatever plan he has because Washington bureaucracy is hell. I mean, it took Obama forever to try to get Obamacare passed.
Oh yeah, right.
And so having even something like that doesn't mean that Trump isn't going to have any power. I mean, he's still head of state. He's still in charge of the armed forces. So putting him in that position is still very, very dangerous. Not world-ending, but it certainly is going to hurt American prestige because he's going to be our representative, like meeting with the Queen of England, meeting with foreign dignitaries.
Yeah, he's the face of America. Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine him with the Queen? That'd be perfect.
He just listed a bunch of like nations that he thought were sponsors of terrorism, and he said stuff like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Iran, the Philippines, 85% Catholic Philippines.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's unlikely. Yeah, a hotbed of jihad. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He doesn't really have an idea of foreign policy or anything like that. So that's going to just offend a bunch of people and piss off a lot, except for Russia.
Yeah, I bet they love this. Huh?
It seems like he has some sort of relationship with Putin, even if he says he doesn't. He's still extremely lenient on Russia. Like he said, he doesn't care that Russia invaded Crimea. He doesn't give a shit. He just allows it. So I think if he's president, he's not going to be tough on Russia at all. He's just going to let them basically do whatever they want. And I mean, it's not like Russia is some evil power or anything. It's not like Russia is bad Russia's not like terrible.
Yeah, sure.
But you can't let just a country go and do whatever they want. Even if
like the more I learn about Putin, the more like absolutely terrified I am of him more than anyone else in the world, because he almost has complete and utter authority. That's really the difference between him and I would say, like, the more I learn about him, he does seem to be the most powerful man in the world, because at least Obama is kept in check, but Putin essentially isn't in almost any way whatsoever. Openly killing people in the street, journalists, stuff like this. Like he's just the literal definition of almost the literal definition of a badass, essentially. So if you're politically in bed with him, as it sounds like Trump is, that is a fairly scary prospect.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people in America actually support Putin.
What? Really?
Yeah. They see a immense. They genuinely like the idea of Putin. They think that he's
this is news to us, huh?
Once for his country, and that we need somebody like him in office. I'm not even joking.
Wow.
Like, that's why a lot of people like to vote for Trump, is because they basically want an American Putin, and that's what they think Trump is. And it's scary.
Is that like the appeal of someone who's just like on the nose and like is really masculine, or like riding bears, or what's the appeal there?
It's kind of like an idea of that mixed with somebody that they think will just bypass the entire American checks and balances.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like supporting fascism, but only if he's the fascist, pretty much.
And only if he's the fascist that they want, obviously, as long as he does the right stuff, because all fascists do what you want them to do, you know.
Yeah, and that's the weirdest mentality now that has developed within like the last 5 years, is people don't really truly want compromise or democracy or anything like that. They will be super happy with a dictator in power as long as that dictator does what they want, pretty much.
Yeah, but I don't know. I have that same sentiment too, though. Sometimes when I care enough about something politically, if you really want it to change, like for example, there's a thing in the UK where to put my cards down on the table about this, like where I think you guys are as well. Pieke and I were talking about this. We're really against euthanasia. So if you've got a terminal condition, a lot of people are really against the right to die, essentially. So a doctor helping you out. Sorry, go on.
You meant the UK is against euthanasia, right?
Yeah. I'm obviously completely for this, but it's got ridiculous to the point where
euthanasia.
Exactly,
Yes.
I think we should just euthanize anyone who disagrees with me. Basically, that's how I think we should solve this. But it's got ridiculous to the point where there are a lot of, particularly Christians. No issue with Christians, but a lot of the people blocking this are Christians because they have a fairly big issue with this. And I did catch myself thinking a few years ago, when this had just been battered about for like 5-6 years, and it's for the sake of people who are dying. I did catch myself thinking, oh crap, yeah, if we get someone in power who could just push this through, like regardless of everyone else's opinion, do I really care about that? And I imagine that's how all fascism starts. You're like, well, let's just get someone in who just kicks everyone else's ass because everyone else is just whining, you know. But
for someone like me from the Netherlands, and we were very running in front with legalizing gay marriage, euthanasia, and anything. It's very strange for me to hear that there are countries where stuff like this, hasn't gone through.
Yeah,
and
you guys are insanely like progressive and liberal, like to the point where you can't even imagine like what like some of the bizarre. Nothing wrong with conservatives, but same with you, like Cody, like the conservative ideals where you just can't. I don't know. Well, probably the same with liberal ideals, but just where there's no consensus.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a liberal, so I at least understand the mentality. At least, so I don't. I'm not one of these like raving rednecks that's like
for sure.
The rules are destroying everything. So I try to at least think I look on both sides of the aisle. But what was I talking about? Back with Trump.
Oh yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think what he's going to do, the most impact he's ever going to have, is on the Supreme Court.
Oh right, yeah.
For people that don't know. The way that the checks and balances work is that the executive branch can, I forgot the word, can enlist isn't the good word.
What, adjudicate?
No, not adjudicate. The executive branch can appoint their own Supreme Court judges. That was the word. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so the president's always the one that appoints a new judge. And last year, our Judge Scalia died from something. I think it was old age, or maybe I don't know.
I was gonna say that sounds ominous. He died from something.
Judge, and he died. And whoever will win the presidency will basically appoint their own judge in their ideology. So if Clinton wins, she's going to appoint a liberal judge, and if Trump wins, he's going to appoint an extremely conservative judge. And these judges are going to last for the next 30 years. They're going to have effects on, or 30, 40 years. They're going to have effects on laws that are going to change the country, within the decades to come. So that might be Trump's lasting legacy, is what judge he actually appoints.
Right.
That's why to a lot of people this election isn't even about the leaders that you're appointing. It's about what type of ideology do you want in the Supreme Court for when those new cases come, stuff that like, gay marriage and stuff like that.
Right.
It's stuff that has been affected by who you have on the court. So that in my opinion is probably going to be the most effect Trump is going to have.
Yeah.
Then the rest of it is going to be his vice president. So
who actually is his kind of appointed vice president?
Mike Pence.
Okay.
Who's in the Indiana governor right next to me. That's the state right next to me, and he's he's a deep evangelical, extremely conservative, and he shares a few views that I don't agree with, but he's agree with them or not, he's basically going to be the true president.
Okay. He's actually calling the shots, huh?
It's going to be like worse than a Dick Cheney, George Bush scenario.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Pence is basically running and calling all the shots, while Trump will kind of just sit there and
look important. Huh?
Yeah, look important. And if somebody says something he doesn't like, he'll call them out because he's a guy who says it like it is.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It's really bizarre when you think that this is like I speak to quite a few Americans about this because it's a fun trigger, like politically, and whenever you bring it up, it's the first election that I've ever lived through where no one was actually proud to support anyone. Before with Obama, for example, people were really excited about this. Vice versa, even Gore, everyone else, even Bush. Like I was I was old enough to remember that. When that was actually coming around, and people are actually really proud on both sides. No one is proud I haven't spoken to a single person who's actually proudly supporting either candidate, which is really bizarre.
Well, I'm sure Cody probably
for sure. I just mean
in
generally
America who are actually proud of. Have you?
Maybe proud's the wrong word, but like excited.
I'm not even joking. The only people I've met who are proudly supporting Trump or Clinton is on the internet. I don't know anybody who actually is like, yeah, Trump some people are like, Trump has some good ideas and stuff, but everyone basically agrees both candidates are extremely fucked.
Yeah, right. For sure.
At least in a way that they can support a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's just like choosing the lesser of two evils, essentially. How fucked do you want to be? Like, if you don't want to be too fucked, go for the other guy, basically. Like, yeah, sure.
It's so weird looking back on the 2012 election. I mean, no matter what your opinion on Obama or Romney, like they were pretty damn similar in just their mentality and stuff. Like I served on the Obama campaign in 2012. I was a senior, and basically that was my heyday liberal days. Okay. But back then, it was like Romney was seen as like the worst guy. He was going to ruin America. And looking back, it's like. He was like he was like rich, but he wasn't like, he never said anything like that offensive.
He certainly wasn't that openly controversial, for sure. Like,
wasn't. Yeah. He even had his bill. He had a healthcare called Romneycare. That was what Obama based Obamacare off of.
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's what he based Obamacare off of.
Yeah, and so the only debates they even had were about whether you should have healthcare be nationwide or have it be a state issue, and so. Going 4 years just in the future, now we have debates about whether we should deport Muslims. Or
yeah, right.
Like, it's crazy just how much it's changed in just that little bit of span of time. It's nuts.
Well, but you'd have to assume, like, normally the candidates that turn up, they're usually there for a reason. They're like often an expression of some sentiment that the public have. So I wonder what it was that tipped it like so radically in such a short space of time.
ISIS.
You reckon?
I think it was ISIS and the whole refugee thing. Refugee issue in Europe. So basically, because of all of that, Americans, because the refugee issue and ISIS are definitely problems. They're definitely significant issues. But because of that, because that becomes such a problem in the last 4 years, it's this reactionary movement to that, and especially a reactionary movement to, extreme political correctness and stuff, which I disagree with the liberals on a lot, but it's a whole reactionary process to a whole culture shift. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
So are you planning any future videos about these subjects? Because normally you often make videos about alternate history, things that have already happened. But are you planning to make videos about things that could possibly happen?
Yeah, like
regarding
on the
current events.
Knowledge Hub channel or something.
Yeah. That's always been kind of a rule I've had, that I would never try to predict stuff in videos.
Yeah.
Because there's these brand of videos online that they always try to predict how the world will look in like 100 years or in 50 years. And it's hilarious just even looking back 5 years from then.
Oh, I know, right?
You just see this mentality of how people from like 2008 would think the future is, and like it becomes extremely dated really fast. So I've never really wanted to predict stuff, because eventually it's gonna get proven wrong. So it has a time date. But I do actually have videos planned for immediately after Election Day for who wins the presidency, and I'm gonna have. It's either going to be what if Donald Trump was elected president, and it's going to be what if Hillary was elected president, and that's a Donald one. And then the video is only going to be 15 seconds long, and it said I just say it's only been a day, and I just end the video.
Yeah, right. I don't know if you should have put the punchline out, but it's out now. But yeah, for sure, that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah, so so that's my secret plan.
Yeah.
It's not so secret anymore.
Yeah, indeed.
But so since I already ripped on Trump, Hillary.
Yeah, I think Hillary's down now. Yeah, for sure.
Now it's time for me to rip on Hillary.
Yeah, right.
I think Hillary is basically just a representation of the oligarchy that has kind of constrained America in the last few decades. Clinton, Bush. Then Obama's like the only president that hasn't been a Clinton or Bush in the last.
That in itself is pretty fucking scary when you see the same name cropping up again and again. Like, that is bizarre. Like, that in a country of hundreds of millions of people, essentially. That's pretty weird when the essentially just family lines or marital lines keep cropping up as presidents. That's fairly strange.
Yeah, it's funny because our nation was supposedly founded on getting rid of monarchies and getting rid of this whole European dynasty sort of thing. And then just a few centuries later, not to offend European dynasties or whatever, but and so now we're just basically having our own version of dynasties, and nobody really seems to mind except for a few people on the internet, which is
yeah. Well, presumably a lot of people mind about this, but it's just, again, if you're, I guess. One of the massive drawbacks about democracy seems like that you're marginalised, so you can only. I'm not ripping on it at all. It's fucking great. It's the best thing since sliced bread, pretty much. It's better than pretty much any other model we've tried. But you get marginalised to the point where if you can only decide, if you don't hold referendums, for example, and to me referendum is a bit of a sore word since recent UK politics, but if you don't hold referendums, essentially the only time you get to decide is every few years when you vote someone in. So you essentially have to decide between A or B, and that's all of their policies, everything. Seems very bizarre that that essentially you can just tick two boxes, and that's deciding the entire fate of politics. It's a fairly strange idea.
It is weird. Like a lot of American democracy, how it's set up, it's kind of purposely designed so most people don't have a choice, and the reason that is, even look at the Electoral College and all that. It's because the founders originally just didn't trust the U.S. masses, and they didn't think that they could actually make good choices for themselves. So this wasn't until 100 years ago when people could truly actually vote for their own presidential candidate, because it used to just be the party would vote for it, and then the people just kind of got two choices, and they're like, hey, this guy seems good. Well, now it's a bit better than that, but it's still a lot of it's whoever the party wants, and so it's not very democratic at all, because we do only get two choices. It's really sad. And it's always going to be like this. That's just how the system is built.
Yeah, but it is hard to imagine. Like, it's easy to rip on, but it is hard to imagine how else you. Obviously, there are things like proportional Do they do this in the Netherlands? Do they have like proportional representation where the parties that get into Parliament are proportional to how many people voted for them? So you wouldn't just get like one party in power. You have like lots of people representing who voted. Do you do that, or is it just like one party that, like Germany do this, for example? Is it the same as Germany?
No. Now I have to think about something I've been avoiding the last few months, reading politics. On anything politics, because as soon as the Brexit referendum came out, people, certain politicians in the Netherlands,
really radical.
Wilders, for example, he's shouting about having our own referendum, our Nexit.
Yeah, the Nexit.
The Nexit. Yeah. No, we have a system where you have to get the majority.
Yeah, sure.
So you have a bunch of different parties who are going to discuss and see if they can
form a coalition, isn't it?
Yeah, coalition.
Okay.
Which often, takes some people have to drop some of their opinions and see if they can come to agreement. And if they can get the majority in the chamber, then they can form the government. But yeah, it has been very difficult in the past. For example, Wilders has been they've been for a couple of years. They were able to form a coalition, but when they actually became a government, there were so many problems that in the end, the government had to be re-elected again.
Really?
Because eventually you get a new election. And I think we had with Balkenende, one of our we currently have Rutte, but before that prime minister, we had Balkenende, and I think he was in the government 5 times. So every time the re-elected, or there was this vote of what do you
vote of? I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Cody, is that right? Vote of no confidence? Is that what you call that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then they had to be re-elected. I mean, I think the first couple of times it was actually past the term, so there was a natural, a new election.
Yeah.
But the last couple of times, shit just went down, and
shit just went down.
Yeah, it's. I've been avoiding. I know more about British politics than about Dutch politics, because it's just. Yeah. And,
yeah. I don't want to know much about British politics, to be honest. But yeah, but again, we probably know more about American politics than either of our own countries combined, I expect.
Well, actually, all I know about the American politics is that the Clintons love balloons. So I've been avoiding politics for the last 2 years in general because I don't know, except for the things on Reddit you see on top,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was going to mention, just while I think about it,
This is also why I've been silent for half an hour, politics, Yeah, I've seen the balloon memes.
So no, I was going to make a bit of a shout out to, again, just something I've been listening to recently. I don't know if either of you follow this. There's a podcast called More Perfect, which is a podcast about the Supreme Court. And I didn't know anything about the Supreme. I just mentioned this because you said we were talking about it earlier. I didn't know anything about the Supreme Court before I started listening to this, and I had no interest in it, but I've become fucking obsessed. And if anyone has any interest in essentially like American legislation or anything like that, but the one that got me was that there was where it all started, the Supreme Court didn't really have much power. And then there was a case that, again, I can't remember the specifics of when it was, but there was a case that came up where, for some reason, I think predominantly black states had less weight when it came to elections for some reason. I think because they were less populated. I think that was the reason. And the Supreme Court, it got to the Supreme Court and they had to decide whether they would change how representation works or whether they would leave it the same. And they had to decide whether they had the power to do that. And it was a split. I think there were, I don't know if there are still 5 judges on the Supreme Court now or how that works. I don't know. But at the time there were 5, I think. And two were one way and 2 were the other. And the one that was in the middle went mad because he realised that whatever he did, if he didn't do it, he might damn democracy. If he did do it, he was going to give the Supreme Court the power to step in on enormous issues like that. And as a result, he dropped out. and I think he ended up in a mental institution for a bit, maybe, and someone else stepped in and they won. So basically they decided that the Supreme Court could change huge things like that. And what happened as a result was, 100 years later or whenever it was, you get the Bush versus Gore thing where the Supreme Court can step in. And it blew me away that this was all down to one guy who he knew exactly what would happen, and he felt the whole weight of history on his shoulders, and this is what sent him mad. But we don't really, I think in the same in the Netherlands, we don't really have anything quite like the Supreme Court, where you can just step in and make these bizarre, enormous decisions that have massive ramifications,
Yeah, we have
You don't have this, huh?
No, we have the first chamber and the second chamber.
Okay.
And in the first chamber, there are 150 politicians.
Okay.
And they debate about things.
Yeah.
And if they agree on something that should happen, it goes to the second chamber.
Yeah.
And they have the final call.
Yeah.
So it's possible that the first chamber, agrees on something, and then the second chamber is like, meh, and of course we have the media and stuff. So people are pressuring, and if it's about something that the whole country really wants to happen, it's less likely to happen.
Okay.
But we don't have a monarch or anything who can
intervene.
Intervene? No. Our king is just there for the pictures and.
That is something America could do with a king. Yeah. That could really, I think we should reinstate a monarchy. That'd be amazing.
George Washington. That's what we should have had.
That's yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I was going to ask as well with you mentioned with Trump potentially leaving a legacy by putting in a very Republican judge. Is that how it is now? Is it split? So it's 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans essentially, and then throwing another one in would make 5, or do you know what the?
I do not actually know.
Oh, fair. That's okay. We're not like putting you on the spot like as Mr. America, but yeah, sure.
I don't know the exact numbers per se. But it's basically replacing. Are you going to replace a conservative judge with a liberal one, or are you going to replace a conservative judge with even more conservative judge? So that's kind of the whole issue here. It's not like it's going to completely change the country 100% forever and stuff like that. But it's still, it doesn't. A lot of people are saying like, oh, this election doesn't mean anything. Oh, this election is, I'm not going to vote. Who cares? It's like, it will have significant impact, even if Trump can't do anything, even if Hillary really doesn't do anything, it's still going to have some impact.
That's the even weirder part, that come the election, when it's over, you're going to have one of them as a president. And I don't know what's weirder. Like, it's just so strange. Especially, we were, I don't know if you know about what's going on with WikiLeaks, Pieke, but we were talking about this the other day when we were sort of trying to work out if we were going to do a podcast together, if we both didn't despise each other or whatever. And we were chatting about the WikiLeaks. Julian Assange keeps going on about how he potentially has some really damning stuff on Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump as well. So it's just the idea that knowing that you could sway an election just by releasing something at exactly the right time. So for example, he's talking about Donald Trump's tax records, I think.
Does he have those? I didn't.
Well, we don't know. The problem is the WikiLeaks are never explicit about what they actually have, but they often hint at things. But I have noticed sometimes they do make threats that they don't always make good on. I don't know why. But they mentioned that they had they had a lot of information about Trump's tax returns. I think that was the issue, because he's not reporting them on some of them, and they claim they also have a lot of the documents that Hillary allegedly had, like the 30,000 emails or whatever the fuck it was, that she had on her private server, like this stuff. So it seems like he has a lot of dirt on both of them, I guess.
Oh, yeah, no, I wish he releases it soon, because that's gonna.
Oh man, can you imagine? But it's just if he does, imagine, for example, I think one of us said this the other day. If Hillary gets indicted, for example, if Hillary got indicted as a result of this, you've basically given the election to Trump, which is that's a lot of power to have as one organization. That's pretty weird.
Oh yeah, it is, and that's just the beauty or curse of having a modern internet society, is that just one person has so much power, or one organization has so much power to just completely change history if they want to. Think about the invention of Twitter completely changed the geopolitics of the Middle East, because people were really easy to communicate with one another, and that eventually spurred the Arab Spring. And I mean, it wasn't like the invention of Twitter caused the Arab Spring.
No, but it certainly helped, huh?
It certainly helped and spurred it. But yeah, with WikiLeaks, that's certainly interesting. I hope he actually isn't bluffing. I really hope he.
Yeah, well, I think we'd all kind of lose respect for him a bit if he is. But it gets me thinking about the transparency thing as well. Like, if WikiLeaks is like the prototype for how the net is going to be as we go on, that's kind of a good thing and a really bad thing as well. Like, if this stuff is just coming out all the time, if everything is transparent, so politicians can get away with less and less, that's amazing, and also some really profoundly scary shit, because everyone's life essentially will be on trial if this stuff is all just made public permanently. If that's the kind of culture we start to live in, you know.
WikiLeaks has also been in some controversies recently. Yeah, did you read upon that?
Is this with releasing names of like high up commanders and stuff who potentially could get killed?
Also, recently I read something in one of the UK newspapers about a lot of female names, for example, had been released.
Okay.
Due to it, and
I don't remember this.
Yeah, we should definitely read up on that.
Yeah,
before we start talking about it.
Yeah,
no, I just realized as well when I was explaining the Dutch system, when I mentioned the two chambers, I mentioned like we have a first chamber where this and this happened, and I actually meant like that. That's actually the second chamber I was referring to.
Oh, that's cool. I think we can.
Like, oh no, I'm gonna look dumb.
The whole premise of this podcast is that we're supposed to be slightly drunk, so it doesn't matter.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
I should have maybe had a couple of more beers before talking about politics.
So. I can't imagine Cody is drinking at 12 in the afternoon or 1 in the afternoon or whenever it is there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 right now, but
that's no excuse.
Enough.
In Britain, we would have been drinking for at least 6 hours by then. But yeah, for sure. Wow.
I would have had a lot of stares. People would be like, "What are you, an alcoholic?" And I'd be like,
yeah. I had there's a friend of a friend came over, a guy from the US the other day, and we were talking about differences in culture, and he was telling me that bars close like at 2 or something, 2 in the morning. Is that right? In a lot of places. I think he may have been from San Diego or something. I think, but
yeah, they mostly do. They
wow.
They close. It's odd. It's really odd. Okay, so this is awesome because this is the first time I've actually been able to vocalize my opinion about this.
Yes.
So we have a pretty prominent drinking culture in America. Like, a lot of people love to drink, like, party, go out to bars and stuff like that. But the funny thing is that there's just sometimes just really weird cultural stigmas surrounding alcohol. 'Cause in my like where I live, I have to drive to the grocery store, right, to get liquor. And there's just this like this separate room for liquor. And when you walk into it, it feels like you're like buying a dirty magazine.
Yeah, you're buying porn.
Or looking at like adult dirty mags, and you're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to take this bottle of Captain Morgan and then I'm just going to purchase it. And then they take it and they put it in like a brown bag so nobody sees it. And then you just feel like, oh, well, apparently this is a bad thing. So it's funny for me that we have a society that already is pretty much accepted, alcohol. Alcohol is not like some dirty bad.
It's not a taboo.
But then you have to put it in like a brown bag, and you can't have it like out in public, or suddenly it's a bad thing.
This was strange to me also that in America you can't drink until 21, right? Is that in all states the same, or?
Yeah, it's everywhere, and I vouch as just turning 21.
Oh, sweet.
So, Exurb1a, X and I, we obviously, we're people who kind of, when it comes to inspiration and working on videos and editing...
Where's this going?
we like to have a drink. And,
you could say that, yeah.
And...
We spent the last week drunk, haven't we?
and I'm also, I live in the Netherlands, and it's we have some kind of herbs sometimes, and
like basil, or what are you getting at?
Basil's very good, especially in soup.
Yeah.
But in general, some people now use it as a recreation. My Dutch is thing. And I'm actually someone who often uses it for my creative flow. So I was just wondering if you, when it comes to making your videos and editing them, do you like to have a drink before, or do you have anything else?
Creative process. Huh?
Yeah. What's your creative process?
Do you smoke crack?
yes on the crack, but on the considering I've only been 21 for 2 weeks. So
sweet.
Oh, so now we can teach him the ways.
My fridge actually has alcohol in it for the first time I can drink whatever I want, so that's odd.
Don't worry, the novelty never wears off, I promise.
So you weren't one of those sneaky teens who, would get a bottle somewhere from someone's sister or brother?
Not really. I mean, I wasn't I never actually drank in high school, ever. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I moved next to my friends, because my friends live in the same apartment complex as me, and they're older than me. So they would always get the alcohol, and I would always, drink it. This was when I was 19, whatever. But that was the earliest I started drinking. But going back to working and drinking, my work schedule, I'm working from 8 in the morning until 8 at night, and so having a drink in the morning and during the afternoon has a little bit of a stigma here.
Or maybe you have coffee. I mean, we've had a lot of early morning conversations right before we started to edit our videos, and we're like, coffee.
Yeah, for sure. My girlfriend loves coffee, so she would probably love both of you. But I drink a ridiculous amount of Coke Zero, and so this isn't supposed to be a product placement, but I drink so much pop, and I'm fit too, so don't think I'm some fat kid. But after drinking every just one pop, I go on to the next one, and I go on to the next one, because if I have a caffeine crash, I just can't do anything.
Oh yeah, right. It's horrible.
Throughout the day, I am just constantly drinking pop, and it helps. I mean, it helps with the production schedule. But
we should maybe ask if they can sponsor this podcast. Since he's name dropping and
Zero. Yum. Yeah. So anyway.
Welcome to Alternate History Hub, sponsored by Coke Zero.
Yeah, for sure.
Favorite drink of Cody from Alternate History Hub.
That's it.
But so I don't actually drink. I love rum.
Yeah.
I usually don't drink it until the sun goes down. That way I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, sure.
But then once I do, then that's when the rum comes out. And usually I'm not working on anything though. So.
I to be honest, with videos and stuff, I couldn't do it hammered. I couldn't do it drunk. I don't know about you, but there's too much going on to. Oh man, it'd just be a fucking disaster. It already is, but...
I have a couple of videos that I made while high as a kite.
Nice.
And for me, it also depends on a lot of people, there's... especially when it comes to foreigners, a lot of stigma around weed, and a lot of people think, there's one sort of weed and it makes you crazy or sleepy, and there are actually a whole bunch of different ones. Sure. And I've experienced with, experimented with a couple of different types. And for the creational process, because I read a lot about I read a lot about it, and some make me sleepy and don't influence me at all. But there's a particular one called amnesia, and that's it's my go-to. It's the most expensive one, also, unfortunately. Yes. And I never use it for anything else, but the creative moments. And but you said you were fit too, and I assume you work out.
Yeah, I work out.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, work out. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I'm asking because I wonder. When you think about upcoming videos and things, I know with X, for example, that you often go running and then you come back with ideas. And
yeah, sure.
And when do you often think about what to work next?
Yeah, that is a good question actually. Yeah, because a lot of your stuff is really varied. Where does that turn up? Do you go for a long walk, or what are you doing?
Do you have something specific that that if you're going to do that, you often come back with the next thing?
Yeah. A lot of it's pretty much if I watch something online, if I see a Netflix thing, if somebody brings up a sort of topic, I think, damn, I really want to look into this now. I really want to. It's usually geography regions. So if I think I really want to talk about Japan, or I want to talk about Thailand, or something about some sort of region of the world, I just look up historical events that happened in that area, and I sort of craft a scenario from there. So, for example, I really feel like talking about Russia for some reason right now. And so I am making a video about if the Russian Empire never existed. And that was basically a spur of the moment thing.
They're going to block it in Russia.
And I felt like talking about that part of the world, and it's weird how a lot of those ideas just pop up just because I love geography. I love talking about different countries, so most of the history comes from just talking about that.
What it originally stems from geography, you reckon?
I love maps. I just love maps.
Okay, I love
lamp.
Yeah.
They're great. But so just how different countries are shaped and how different countries, came to be pretty much. There's a bunch of there's just so much history with that. And that's kind of what spurred me to go into alternate history, because when you do alternate history, you get to draw a lot of maps, and that's really fun.
Do you collect maps also?
Yeah, well, I collect some maps. I collect a lot of flags too. I love flags even more than maps, actually. And so I have probably like 20 flags.
Nice.
A lot of vexillologists are probably like, "Oh, that's not a lot of flags," but I just started my collection like 2 months ago. But
since you turned 21, or
fun fact about America, you can't buy flags until you're 21. So
what the fuck is that? Are you being serious?
That's a joke.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Like,
okay, so you're 21 now, right?
Yeah, I'm 21 now.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Well, it's the same as us turning 18, essentially, but except he's been able to buy guns for. Couldn't you buy guns at 18? Is that right? Or was that 21?
You can buy different types of guns. When you're at least, it varies by state. So in Ohio, when you turn 18, you can buy rifles, shotguns, basically anything that's not a pistol. And once you turn 21, that's when you can buy handguns.
Oh, so wait, hang on. That seems really... Did I understand that right? That seems really backwards. Then you can buy handguns.
There's this whole stigma with assault rifles and stuff. Assault rifles aren't actually... Assault rifles can kill a lot of people very fast, don't get me wrong. That, mass murders, that's usually the weapon of stuff.
But you can't conceal them, right?
Some of the gun violence that occurs in America is from just pistols.
Okay.
Because while pistols are, they don't seem as dangerous as assault weapons, they are a lot more easy to bring into any situation and can easily end a life just like that,
Sure.
So the mentality, and I agree with this mentality, is that you have to be a lot older and a lot more mentally stable to own a pistol, because since it's so easy to use, it requires a lot more of maturity.
Yeah, sure.
An assault weapon, they look dangerous, and they can certainly be dangerous. You can't just bring one on the street. You can't just carry one on the street. A concealed carry you can.
Yeah, pistol you just keep in your handbag or in your pocket, I guess, or holstered, or yeah, sure. Man, it's been really interesting to follow, especially after like recent shit that went down, obviously in the US, recent shootings and stuff. It's been interesting to follow because I follow a bit of British media and obviously follow American media and stuff, and the argument is just so different depending on where you're looking. Obviously, because we don't really have a history of privately owning guns, not really, except for farmers and stuff like this. So it's been really bizarre to see how, I don't know how you felt about I think Obama recently spoke out against assault rifles, for example. But I suppose it sounds like you're saying that actually pistols are considerably more dangerous in a way, but handguns, sorry, because the concealment.
Yeah. So this is kind of going to be where we disagree a little bit on stuff.
Oh, to be honest, I don't really have I don't think either of us on this side have a particular ideology about this. I just mean like culturally. I just noticed that the UK, for example, like Europe generally, we're pretty like, we don't have any great passion for owning guns. I just mean, but I don't really give a shit either way.
Yeah. Okay. So in America, a lot of the mentality is because one, with the Second Amendment, that was kind of included. It was just included in that. But since the United States is so big, it's so wide open, there are a lot of rural areas. There are a lot of areas that it takes 5, 10, 15 minutes to get to, even if you call the police or whatever. So when you go so far out into the country, it has a feeling of isolation, and that if something goes wrong, you need something to protect yourself, just like that. And calling the cops usually does not work out. So most gun owners usually live, most people that live in rural areas own a gun because if, there is a home invasion or if there is something, you can at least protect yourself, which rarely there are home invasions. Rarely there are actual break-ins or robbers or anything like that. But it's kind of seen as owning a fire hydrant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. It's a utility rather than a weapon.
I can also imagine in a country, as America, that's that big. I live in the Netherlands, and we have so many people in such a small area.
Yeah.
So,
no one's that isolated.
Yeah,
well,
indeed.
not that many people that isolated.
Yeah, I can imagine if I live in a country where...
Yeah, that's a good argument. I never thought about it like that before,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To put in perspective, my grandma lives around 2 hours away from me, and she just lives in the next state over. She lives in Indiana. So, and to drive that distance, that's like, I'm guessing that is pretty much a considerable distance in Europe to drive 2 hours, like, to where you go. But in the U.S., that's like barely anything. Like some people commute like 40 minutes, 50 minutes just to get to a place because the country's just so wide open because of the spread of urbanization. Yeah, so in the U.S., guns aren't really seen as dangerous weapons. They're certainly dangerous, but they're seen as the equivalent of having a med kit.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yes, it's just something that you would have if you're prepared for it. And then, in terms of assault rifles and stuff, assault rifles aren't actually any different than really a normal rifle. They look more dangerous because they have stocks and stuff, and they can fire off, considerable larger bullets, but they are not automatic. We don't have automatic weapons actually in the U.S.
You don't? As in, you can't just go and get hold of these?
No, well, the difference between, you know the difference between semi-auto and automatic.
Not that clearly, to be honest. No, I just assumed it was like the nature of how you reload. I thought that was kind of what it's down to, isn't it?
Say you have a standard rifle, right? A semi-automatic rifle is a rifle that you have a magazine and you can fire it as fast as you can pull the trigger. So it's one shot for every time that you push down on the trigger. Mm-hmm. An automatic weapon is a gun that you can just hold down the trigger considerably.
It's just a stream of rounds. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's this confusion between what a lot of people think that an assault weapon is an automatic weapon.
To be honest, literally up until the point when you said that, that's what I assumed. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not the case at all. What people think are assault weapons are just standard semi-auto weapons that just look scary. They're actually not that different from your average rifle. It's just they're made to look like military weapons because it's kind of like how you would buy a neat car or you would buy a doll or something like that. A lot of people buy these guns because they basically just look cool and they look scary to a lot of people, but they're not actually that more dangerous. Having a different stock or having a different grip, that doesn't actually change the performance of the gun. That just makes it look cooler to the person. So, assault weapons, if we're talking in terms of mass shootings, assault weapons are much more dangerous than a pistol. If you're firing on a crowd, as we've seen would happen in Orlando and with Sandy Hook and all that, then yes, assault rifles are certainly more dangerous, but they're a lot less. If you look at the statistics, they are hardly used in gun violence. Hardly.
Wow, okay.
Most assault rifles are used for target practice. They're used for marksmanship.
Yeah.
Because, and I can say this as somebody living in Ohio, there's a very prominent gun culture of just firing guns for fun. And I do this all the time.
Oh man, I'd do that shit if it was more readily available back in the UK for it. I'd love to do that shit. Yeah.
I've never really actually used a real gun, but I've used airsoft guns, which were I think at that point, I'm not sure if they're still illegal in the Netherlands, but at that point they were. So I went to Belgium to actually have a team, and we would actually fight each other, and that was so cool. And I can imagine the thrill of it.
It's great. So it's kind of like, in America, a nice idea of a weekend is, go out to the country, go to friends' property, fire some guns. Everyone brings their guns. You just fire at targets, and it's basically a fun old time. You don't actually plan on killing. There's no mentality of
right. That's okay. We'll have dinner at 6, and then we'll shoot all the terrorists at 7. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, for sure.
There's no mentality of I'm gonna go and mow down a bunch of people with this gun. A lot of it's for fun, and a lot of it is for sort of what's the word?
Well, it's recreational.
Training your skill as a marksman.
Okay.
Because that's a kind of a valued skill here in America.
Yeah.
Is how to shoot a gun. But so while assault rifles seem more deadly, you can't actually. They don't actually contribute that much to gun deaths because you can't carry them anywhere. They're bulky.
Yeah. Okay.
They're huge, and you never see people firing in the streets. Firing each other with assault weapons. But pistols contribute to way more deaths because everyone can own a pistol. And I'm not saying this doesn't mean ban guns or anything. I don't believe in banning guns. It's all economic stuff. But the reason why pistols kill so many is because they're more easy to smuggle,
sure.
They're more easy to carry, and they're relatively easy to use. So that's why so many more people there's so many more pistol deaths is because of that.
But coming at this as a complete European idiot, and again, like I said, without an ideology, I don't think either of us really feel swayed on either side of the debate. But coming at this as an idiot, just purely like sucking in US media, I feel, maybe I'm wrong on this, I feel like the last few reported big shootings, as well with there was like the Batman screening, like in the cinema, where a guy mowed down a load of people, and a few others. They
more recent, when the 50 or 60 people were killed in that nightclub.
Well, that's the Orlando thing, I think Cody's talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with that, like, weren't they often reported that people were using assault? So for that reason, how come they were using assault rifles rather than is it just because it's just easier to kill a lot more people in one space, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Assault weapons can easily, they can easily kill a lot more people in a quick amount of time. Like, there's no arguing that. But at least from my opinion, it's not the tool, the reason for the tool. It's what caused the reason.
Sure.
So for Orlando, at least, it was basically Islamic terrorism. So that was an issue in itself.
Yeah, right.
For Sandy Hook was an issue because that was terrible. Like, the mother basically allowed this kid who was extremely mentally unstable to have an assault weapon, to have a gun, and he went out and did this. And so a lot of it is just, it's like any tool. If you're irresponsible with it, it's going to hurt a lot of people.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, just like what happened in Paris, a normal truck.
Yeah, right.
If you want to kill people, you will find a way.
You'll find a way to do it, yeah.
A lot of at least my mentality is that getting rid of the tool isn't going to stop it, because anyone can use a pistol, anyone can use any other kind of thing. What needs to be looked at is what is the mentality of
what's actually causing this, yeah.
Yeah, which, in my opinion at least, I think a lot of it is media driven, and I think a lot of it is these sensational stories of crazed mass murderers going out and racking up these huge body counts, and then suddenly they have their face sprayed on a wall.
Yeah, well, do you know the sorry, actually gone.
No, I was just wondering, if the media would stop
glorifying these people.
Yeah, well, not
glorifying, but turning them into also
giving so much information about
Yeah.
these people. I wonder if the attacks would stop at that point. But then again, you also have to. The media would also be how do you call that?
Like restricted.
Yeah,
muted kind of.
Yeah, you have the problem with that.
Definitely, yeah.
Censorship. That was the word I was looking for.
I think a lot of it is you can't have the government restrict the media, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
don't want that.
Yeah.
The media has to regulate themselves and have their own discretion about if they're going to show and sensationalize these images, which sadly a lot of them don't do, because mass murders, they boost ratings, they boost revenue.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And it's not a lie to say that these murders actually generate more buzz for media. But what was I going with this? What was I going to say? That's at least in my opinion, why I believe there's so many more mass murders now is because these people are basically infamous. You know, at least in America, we know who the Columbine shooters are.
Yeah, right.
And we know who the guy who killed all those people in Aurora is. And without them doing these despicable acts, sadly, they never would have been remembered.
Yeah, well, the one that sticks with me is the kind of to break the rule we were just talking about, but to mention his name, like Elliot. I think his name is Elliot Roger. The guy who, I don't know if you followed this, I think he was the son of a fairly well-known movie director or something. I don't know, somehow associated with film. Do you know about this one?
You have to tell me more.
Okay, yeah, but this kid had a YouTube channel where he was uploading quite a few videos about how you can go and watch. That's the sinister part. Videos where he was uploading about how he was feeling quite rejected by chicks, by girls.
Didn't he shoot 7 women? Is this
Yeah. So it was getting worse and worse, and it was quite disturbing to watch. And if you actually see it, you can see where the trend is going. But he just looks like another sort of sinister kid on the internet. You know, a lot of kids, I guess, do this. But he felt really rejected by women, and then he just walked into I think he walked into maybe his school or college or something, can't remember the details, but shot a lot of people up. And then I think either took his own life or was shot by the police or something. But that's the weird part about living like in the internet age is, like I intentionally, when I saw these videos were online, in the news report, I intentionally went back and watched all of the videos of his I could find, because it was just so like,
it's so like the recent shootings, like when they had the live threads on Reddit, you know. I remember actively we were both reading that and catching up with it. And
definitely, yeah. You want to know what's going down. It's almost like it's not pleasurable, but it's like it's exciting, and you want to know what's going to happen. So it's like titillating, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a horrible way. And
it's gross. Yeah, for sure. But I just mean it's exciting over doing nothing, like you know.
Yeah, well, it was also some of the recent things, like the things that happened in France. It was very close nearby for me, and I had friends in the area, and you're just constantly, keep reading stuff. And one thing that really annoys me about the media these days, and especially YouTube, I remember following the live stream on Reddit during one of these events, and then I started to refresh the YouTube search page. Where I just put in the keywords regarding events. And, within minutes, every time I refreshed it, I saw new videos of, unknown channels or very major news sites who are all publishing the same videos or even random videos just to get, up in the search results and get some money from the monetization. Mm-hmm. And even another stupid example with that new game, Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
A lot of news sites would just use any news story if they could put Pokemon Go in it. People would click it.
Yeah, I saw this happening with like some YouTube channels I follow where they're like purely about maths and purely about computers and numbers and computer theory, and they were like making completely out of character videos about Pokemon Go. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like you normally cover like high level mathematics. Not high level, but you're normally like math and science. What are you doing? Like just trying to get views.
Yeah, it's always. I mean, fun fact about me, when I first started college, I was a journalism major.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to go into journalism and go into all this different, write articles and all that fun standard stuff. And after spending just 1 year, not even in actual journalistic environment, I just spent it at my school paper and with actual professionals from, the media. I just realized that it's such a toxic environment that everyone is basically just trying to find that next story, that next historic moment, and it's kind of just a culture of capitalizing on tragic events.
Definitely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't live with that. I couldn't do that, so I quit.
What do you do now?
I'm actually a digital arts major, so that's the concept art and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's I couldn't do that, and I quit. But a lot. That's why I see all these new shootings and all these news reports is because people just want to be famous now.
Yeah, right. At any cost. Yeah.
And this is just a really fucked up new trend. People want to be the next Aurora shooter. They want to be the next Orlando shooter. They And it's truly scary how you can just go out and shoot a bunch of people and you'll be famous.
Yeah, sure.
That was a recent YouTube. What was her name again?
Marina Joyce.
Yeah, she. Are you aware of the story behind this, Cody?
Yeah, was she the one who was shot?
Oh no, that's I know who you mean. Her name. She made music fit. She's brilliant. No, we're talking about a YouTuber who had some videos online where some things were set randomly, or
it's pretty fucking sinister if you watch her videos. Like,
it was a bit sinister, and her fans at some point start to read signs into her videos, and at one point we start to get worried about maybe her being abducted, and that people were maybe
like she's being held hostage and being made to make videos,
and she was forced, and these wild theories spread out that maybe ISIS was behind it, and she was planning to attend an event, and at that point
she made an invitation to attend, didn't she?
She was attending an event, I think, for some reason, and she invited people to come over, and around that time her followers started to get really paranoid and thought something was wrong, so they started to tweet stuff like don't go to the event, it's maybe Daesh related or whatever, and the news picked it up, and I think she gained like 500,000 subscribers
if you look at her videos now, she's got millions of views on all of them.
Well, she already was pretty...
She was big, but I saw I was amazed how big how massive the effect was, and you can see the results. And before she jumped like millions.
Yeah, but the thing is, if this happened years ago, the news maybe would have dropped it and stuff. But now they could have used the word terrorist, and they thought they didn't even mention.
So it's the fact you mean that they jumped on the terrorist bandwagon to kind of like make out that it might.
I'm pretty sure all the news sites made a lot of money with advertisements on those days, and.
It's hard to imagine though, if you were given the job of trying to get rid of this kind of like insidious culture of just being sensational for getting clicks. It's hard to imagine how you do it without actually stepping in and being and actually regulating it. And obviously we don't want that to happen. So it's really hard to imagine how you would change this without being really kind of Byzantine about it, like without again, it's like American politics or politics in general. There's a lot wrong. But it's almost impossible to imagine how you would change it without being a dictator, without being a fascist, and actually stepping in and doing something about it.
Just thinking about the idea, what the hashtag has done to the world. The fact that we have hashtags, on Twitter, Facebook, whatever.
I still don't understand how to use these, to be honest. I don't really get what they are, but okay.
I actually made a hashtag for you when your channel just started to grow.
Thank you. Okay.
But it's a very quick way to come up with something people can identify with, or a certain subject, or whatever. And for example, if people tweet about a certain hashtag and more people do it, it all gets compiled. And that's, when things start to trend, media will notice, and
then they pick it up. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. So if you just have enough people who start trending about a certain subject, you can get noticed. So you just, if you want to start an Exurb1a cult,
why not? Why not? Yes,
come up with a nice hashtag, and maybe we
exactly.
I'll get the candles.
Yes. Nevertheless, it's extremely hot here. We haven't managed to source out AC or anything. It's getting to the 2-hour mark or something. So it may be high time to begin wrapping this up. But we were going to say before we do, can you tell people sort of where to find out a bit more about you and just about your channel and stuff, and anything you've got coming up, just as a little soapbox that you can stand on. So anything you want to promote, pretty much.
Yeah, cool. So just in case nobody saw, my channel is called Alternate History Hub, and I make videos about alternate history, basically asking the what if of what if things had gone differently in our timeline. So if the Axis won World War II, if the South won the Civil War, and I try to theorize or attempt to theorize about how things would have gone differently and how society would have changed. So I'm doing my whole alternate history of voice now. Damn.
I did wonder about that before I asked you. Is that his real voice, or does he when he starts making a video, goes a bit lower and talks a bit more like this? Because for some of my videos, I sometimes need to make a certain voice, and I think you sometimes have it too.
No, I think it's It's Cody's voice for sure. But yeah, sorry, do carry
on.
It's when I'm focused. It's like sometimes my voice just like gets deeper for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah. So my next video is hopefully going to be what if the Russian Empire never existed. Awesome. I have a whole lot more great content hopefully coming up. New videos are every week, so check that out. And yeah,
you've also got like another channel, Knowledge Hub, right? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah, I have another channel called Knowledge Hub, and it's basically about anything that I want to talk about. So history, geography, hopefully science in the future, and I make weekly educational videos about any topic. So I have a new series about the history of tanks.
Like, so I can say personally, I've been watching this. It's awesome for sure.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so. Actually, it's pretty fun. Every time somebody asks me about alternate history and stuff, I always have I always have like the same template in my head that I repeat verbatim so screw it up. And whenever I get it right, I'm like, yes, nailed it.
To be fair though, it's a bit of a fucked up thing to do, just to put someone on the spot. Like, hi, could you just sum up your entire creative career of the last 4 years in 2 minutes? And if you don't do it properly, we'll hate you. Like, it's a bit weird. So. Yeah, I don't blame you for if you've got a bit of a template. I think that's fair enough.
Well, I have maybe a final question regarding your creative career. Are there any plans for the future outside of YouTube? Things you want to do or focus on?
I mean, like creatively, generally.
Well, creatively, or could be anything else.
Okay.
But creatively, specifically.
Really, it's. I kind of want to just see where it takes me. So I've gotten so many opportunity offers just within the last year that if I wasn't in college, I would have definitely taken. But I kind of want to just make content right now, continue to make content every week, and build up my channel. Reach 1 million subscribers hopefully by the end of the year, and because I actually just reached 800,000 subscribers. So.
Congratulations!
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks. So so. Hopefully reach 1 million subscribers and then just see where it takes me. I love doing art. I love writing. And so I'm hoping that the channel will give me sort of a leverage above, the competition, or at least, just by itself have other people want to work with me because of what I've done on the channel. That's kind of my hope right now. I want to just see where it takes me. It's no use worrying about it all because it gets overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I can imagine. But I would just say for anyone else listening, like the people we were essentially planning to have on, we had a bit of a think about. Obviously, it was a pretty big deal having a first episode to us anyway to get it off the ground, and we had quite a long chat about quite a few chats about who we want to go with, and we decided we didn't really want to aim for like traditional celebrities or anything because we weren't very interested in talking to them if they wanted to come on. It was really something we were both actually interested in ourselves, and like you're that's why your channel really came up, because we actually liked what you were doing. Like we were pretty amazed that someone was actually doing this. So I would say to anyone else that this is genuinely good stuff, and like we massively recommend. Yeah, for sure, man.
Oh, thank you.
Good stuff.
That was great to hear.
Yeah, not too well. Yeah, we'll be watching for sure, and like best of luck with it, really.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, man. Cool. Okay, well, it's been good to talk, huh?
Yeah, it was.
All right, in a bit.
All right, cheers for listening. You can find us at halfdrunkradio.com or on Twitter and YouTube.
Yes, if you think you know someone working in an interesting field, reach out and we'll see if we can get them on. Unless they're Norwegian. Goodbye.